and welcome to my channel. My name is Debra. I'm really thrilled to be making this video today. In the last video I made called How to Create a Miracle, I said I was going to talk more about how it is we turn away from our current reality to look towards the reality that we want, how it is we let go of what appears to be to move to something new, because I see that as something so important. If you want to watch the video that I made before this, How to Create a Miracle, and you haven't done that, you can access it here. If not, go and watch that one and then come back and watch this one. If not, if you've already watched that or you just want to dive deeper into this, let's do it. So in that video, I talked about something amazing that had happened for me, how money had shown up in my life for something that I really needed. A substantial amount of money had showed up through being able to turn away from my current reality and live from a space, a true space of knowing that something was already done. So I talked about how I said I was going to dive more deeply in this video into how we do that. Because I know for me, when I was looking at conscious creation, when I was diving more deeply into this and trying to see how I create more of what I want in my life and have less of what I don't want, and how in the places, when I looked back over my life, how in the places that I had done that, and in areas where I hadn't done that, what was different, what was going on there. And so what I really saw was that in the areas where this had worked, I was willing and able to let go of a current reality and move into see a new possibility. In the areas where I was really stuck, and money was definitely one of those for me, I would look at my bank account, look at the numbers in my bank account and just be, well, how can I do anything different? I don't understand. I don't understand how I be a different person when this is the numbers in my bank account. So what I saw, I looked at in my relationships, how a certain set of circumstances, something could happen, an exchange between me and another person. And I could really see, it made sense to me how I could show up differently there. But with things like numbers on a sheet, in my bank, that didn't look possible. So that's what I want to dive more deeply into today and speak about to clarify what that is. Because I am not pointing towards ignoring a current reality. Because when we push down our feelings, when we have those feelings and we pretend that we don't have those feelings by pushing them down, there are subtle differences that are so different, and understanding what those differences are, that the nuances with those differences, and moving into a space of seeing this is the way we create something different. That is the difference that makes the difference. And probably, as you can see by this video, it can be a little bit confusing and difficult to put it into words, but I'm going to do my best here. So if we have a reaction to something, a feeling about something, I talked about, when things happen within a relationship, if somebody says something or does something and you have some kind of reaction to it, something comes up within you to whatever it is that's going on. Now, the way that we move on from that and let go of that is an acceptance of how you feel, an acceptance of what is, and then a stepping back from it, a letting go, a dropping of, because what tends to happen once we have a reaction to something is, whether we know it or not, our internal reaction, what goes on internally for us, is a justification as to why we are feeling that. We tend to make up stories about why that is happening, who this person is, what they've done, the way they did it. If they had done it differently, it could be different. All sorts of things like that, a justification of the way we feel. We get into it, we connect with it emotionally, and by making up these stories in our minds. Now, what letting go of it involves is stepping back from those stories and just not allowing our mind to go crazy and justify and create those stories, to just I'm moving back on screen here physically because I know that is what I do. That is how I do it. There is literally like a, right, okay, I'm not gonna participate in that. I'm not going to allow that train of thought to take hold, because our attention, our consciousness is what brings that to life. We are thought generated creatures. We are spiritual beings here having a human experience, and our consciousness, our life force, is what brings things to life, what gives things energy, what makes things happen. We are an integral part of that. So how we show up to these things creates what these things are. So when I see, as I said, something goes on, something happens, when I show up as someone who has the story running in my mind of justification, well, if this person wasn't like that, if I wasn't, it can sometimes be stuff against me, against the person, against the situation, anything. But if there is a story running in my mind, and very often the other thing to look for here is sometimes those stories can be so familiar to us that we don't even see them. So get curious about that. But just taking a step back and not participating in that, that's how we let it go. It's not about trying to come up with, it's certainly not in that first instance, it's not about trying to deny that that's how we feel. It's not about trying to, I don't feel like that, and I don't want to feel like that, and I mustn't feel like that. All of that, I'm sure you can see in my movements and the way that I'm speaking, all of that is resistance. And resistance actually creates more of what we don't want. If you think of it in this way, if you said, right, I don't want to think of a pink elephant, I don't want to think of a pink elephant, I don't want to think of a pink elephant, there is resistance there, and we're going to think about that more. So if something has happened and we have had some kind of reaction to it, and we just go into, I don't want to think about that, I shouldn't think like that, I mustn't be thinking like that, that's not how I want to think. We actually create more, we create an emotional involvement in that, and we bring it to life. If we physically take a very gentle step back and disengage from whatever it is that is running in our mind, disengage from what it is that's happening, and look to something else. If we look towards something else to think about what it is we do want, what it is we do want to create. So I'm going to move a little bit more now into these areas where potentially we find it difficult. As I said, for me, around relationships and things like that, I find it really, really easy to disengage from this and look towards what it is that I do want to create. And I'm absolutely seeing how to do it in other areas of my life. That is the video before this. That was what I talked about, that actually I had really seen how I did this. I'd really seen what it was that I had done. So if I take this, if there is something that you find particularly difficult to move your attention away from, to disengage from, I'm guessing that it is you have a lot of made up stories around there. You have a lot of thinking in that area, because I could really, really see that. So what I see is my five senses, my eyes, my ears, these kinds of things, they are there to help me navigate life outside. Whereas when I am trying to create, the way that we create is we have to disengage from our senses in the broadest terms. So it is like, actually, if I went and looked at my bank account, there would be certain numbers on there, and then I would think, well, how do I create as if I have money when those numbers are plainly written there? So it is very much about knowing, okay, I have been triggered in that way, if you like, I am thinking about that, but I don't have to engage with that and make up stories about that and make up the story, well, this is how it is, so how am I supposed to do something different? It is about, again, withdrawing that, dropping what my senses tell me is true, and coming back to a knowing of who I truly am. So me and you, we are spiritual beings on this human journey. We are aspects of the divine. We are absolutely abundant. Anything is possible when we tap into this truth of who we are. And this truth is way beyond our five senses. It is within us, but beyond our thinking, beyond what my mind tells me is true, beyond that. And I have, as do you, the capability to tap into that. And yes, it may take some practice at first, but it is okay. So these are the numbers, or if it is, your health or relationship stuff, other people, whatever it is that where you get stuck. If you see, okay, so that is what my senses are telling me what it is. So I'm just going to take a minute. I'm going to step back from this, and I'm going to use this amazing gift I have to think, to imagine what it is I would like to be happening, what it is I would like to feel. What would it be like if this thing that I wanted? So if we go back to my personal, the thing that happened to me was I wanted a huge chunk of money to pay off a bill, and I absolutely did not have that money. And my bank account was not showing any signs of that money happening anytime soon. I had no idea how it was going to happen, where it was going to come from. So just stepping back and imagine, who would I be? How would I feel? What would I be doing right now in this moment if I had the money to pay that bill? Well, I can tell you right now as I'm sitting here, that bill has been paid. And when I physically actually did that, when I transferred the money over, what I felt was joy, relief, connection. I'm going to go back to that one, relief. There was a huge oh yeah, that's done. How beautiful. And that relief, that was what I had a realization about before I ever did, before the money was ever anywhere near my bank account. It was like, I recognized the feeling of tension in me. I recognized this and thought, actually, if this was different, I would feel a huge relief. So I just sat in that beautiful feeling of relief. This is done. This is absolutely a done deal. Wow, how amazing that bill has actually been paid. I have done it. As I said, this was way before the money even hit my bank account, let alone this bill being paid. And I practiced that. I didn't deny how I felt. Like they were like two entirely separate things. And if the thoughts arose in me that I hadn't got the money in the bank, I would just again not engage in that train of thinking, not engage in all of that nonsense that was coming up in my mind. And definitely over time, this has been something that I have played with and practiced to get used to that feeling, to know that this is how creation works, and I have the capability to do this. I know that I do. And the one thing that I know about you is you do too. You absolutely have the capability to allow in. Creation is finished. Everything that you can imagine, everything that you truly desire, that you have a desire for, absolutely already exists and exists for you. You are just moving into a state of consciousness that means that you can access that. And that is exactly what I did. And whether it is peace of mind, whether it is just joy and connection and love, whether it is a physical thing like this money that I needed to pay this bill, whatever it is, the possibility absolutely exists. And so it wasn't about me denying that I was scared that this bill had come up and I had to pay it. It was a truly stepping into the relief, the love, the connection, the good feeling, the joy, the fun that I would feel when this was a done deal, and spending time hanging out in that feeling, recognizing it, knowing it, and knowing that that was a truth for me. And I did that for a couple of weeks, and then miraculously and literally, my gosh, the money came to me. I'm not going to share the full details of how that happened, but blew my mind how that money came to me. And I have now I've paid that bill, it's done. And I can really feel, it's funny because in one sense, the joy that I feel in the connection, I've already been feeling it for ages. So it's almost like, oh yeah, this was already a done deal. So I hope that really expands on what letting go and moving into being the person, already being that person. And we can do this whether this is a health issue, whether this is a financial issue, whether this is a relationship issue. We have within us a way to access this deeper truth of who we are, to feel into it, to step back from all of these things that our mind creates about who we are as human beings, and not to engage with them quite so emotionally. And it definitely has a lot to do with the narrative that goes on in our mind, and seeing that we can create a new narrative. We can, and the more we begin to learn and see, to step back from these things, the more easy it is to do it, the more often we can do it. So I really hope there was something useful there. Do check out the show notes below if you want to connect with me further. It's really, I love engaging with you guys. If you've got any comments or any questions, please post them below. As I say, check out the show notes because there are ways to connect with me further if that's what you would like to do. Take care, have an amazing day, and I will see you somewhere soon. Bye for now.